I'm excited to share with you some of my favorite advanced strokes I've learnt and refined over the years. Some, if you have the technique, are relatively easy. Some are harder to do. And, well, some others might take a whole lot of practice to nail them.
We're here!
Hi, Kevin.
Oh, it's Becky Mason! It's Becky Mason!
Reid's coming soon.
Where is he? What's going on?
Reid?
Kevin!
Oh my goodness.
Kevin!
What's happening?
Kevin! I knew this was a mistake. I knew it. Kevin! Kevin!
I'm breaking up. Ooh.
How you doing, buddy? Oh!
Actually, I don't know if I can do the interview because I got an empty head.
Oh! Don't ever interview artists. They're very odd people. Artists are very different. That's hilarious. I think you guys know more about Zoom than I do. Oh man. Well. So, what's new and exciting?
I don't know. We're isolated. I think, well, the whole world is isolated, so we're making the best of it. Let's see, what are we doing? Reid's making his studio. He's been putting a lot of things in his studio, and yeah. And
hey, you got too much time in your hands, man.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Got to have whiskey and you got to have a little bit of a fire and we're good to go.
Yeah, we are good to go. So we got a fire. That's the campfire box. It's my dad's favorite fire box.
Oh, man. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really nice. We have it in our living room right now.
So everybody out there, if you don't know who Becky and Reid are, well, you basically have to know if you're Powder, right? But Reid does have a different or unique sense of humor. I do remember once during a presentation, I've told the story many times around you, but if people don't know this, yes, one of the biggest practical jokes you ever played was I was just about to go on stage and I was all excited, really nervous, anxious, whatever, and you're like, "You're good, yeah," and then you squirted water on my crotch. Yeah, that's just one joke you played on me. Yes, just one. And then when I got on stage, of course, stupid me goes, "Don't look here," whatever you do. Oh my Lord.
I never actually told you this, but that water bottle was empty, you know. That was you.
All right, so I'm going to ask you some serious questions because you know, when we get together, it's very not serious. We have a lot of good times at shows and stuff like that, and Becky and I, we're going to go into the pool. And
we're not going in.
No, we're not going for a swim. No, you're professional.
On the water. On the water. That water is icy cold.
We are going to go in the canoe, the famous canoe that was used in Song of the Paddle. You were a wee tot, weren't you?
I was.
You were. Do you remember that trip?
Yes.
How was it? Was it a good trip?
It was a 6-year-long trip.
Oh my Lord. Seriously?
Yeah.
It's only an hour film.
It took 6 years to make.
Nice fire.
We're being serious.
We should be serious now. It's serious times now. So when did you guys become the canoe couple? Like, so how long have you been married?
Oh, that's a skill testing question.
Oh!
We got married in 1995.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So 25 years, I guess, but we've known each other since about 1983, I guess.
Yeah, did you meet on a ski hill or something? I kind of remember that. No?
That's Becky's. Well, how I remember it is I was canoeing one day and some woman had tipped her canoe and needed rescuing. So I stripped off all my clothes and swam out and grabbed her and gave her artificial respiration. And she recovered and she fell in love with me. That's how I remember it. But since we're being serious, Becky might have a different version of that.
Well, I didn't notice him, but he noticed me. He was doing an art history lecture, and being a filmmaker's daughter, anytime the lights went off and you projected images on the screen, I tended to go to sleep because that's how I grew up, looking at a lot of rushes, it was called. So I just went to sleep during his lecture, and I was right in the middle and the front row.
I did not know that story.
Yeah, and I noticed her dozing off.
Oh.
I saw these blue eyes, and the next time I looked back, because they were just riveting, next time I looked back, they were closed.
And it was love at first sight, was it, Reid?
For me, she didn't see a damn thing.
So then the next week, I was skiing up at a local skiing hill, and I was having a great time. And then somebody came on the chairlift with me. Actually, it was a T-bar. It was way back in the T-bar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he came on, and I didn't recognize him again.
Because her eyes were closed the first time.
So we got reacquainted because it takes a long time to go up a T-bar. So I finally, I got to know him, and it was great. And so ever since then, we've been together.
That's fantastic. All right, so what are we having today? I'm having Cowsker.
Oh, we don't have anything.
What?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of the middle of the day, and we don't. Yeah, well.
I agree with you, but we're in a pandemic.
I know, and we're all out.
Oh. It's so funny. I'm seriously, I was, because I collect some good whiskeys, and I really don't have good whiskey unless someone's over. So I'm good for a while. But I started, for the first time in my life living here where I live, it's a very small town, I started locking the doors. All right.
I guess we don't have friends like you, because we don't have that sort of a collection.
No, the whole whiskey chat thing, I have a lot of people just sort of handing me whiskey. And this one here, like, okay, Jerry, the singer-songwriter guy, he sent me this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a moonshine with elderberry. It tastes terrible.
Did you tell him that?
Oh, there'll be dust on the shelf for that. So you're both artists, okay? And do your canoe trips that you've done inspire the art, or does the art inspire the canoe trips? Oh,
you first.
My work is inspired by my canoe trips for sure. I tend to work in themes. So if I go out on a canoe trip and I'm looking down in the beautiful rocks with weeds and everything, we'll do a theme on that for a couple of years. So, and wherever we go, it always influences me and what I produce.
That's fantastic. Now, Reid, I actually love your art, by the way. I've been a huge fan of your artwork. Becky, I like your stuff too, but I'm telling you right now, I actually
just put yourself out of that hole.
Just. But I know your artwork. I mean, the stuff I've seen isn't really canoe based, is it?
No, not directly.
Yeah, do the trips inspire you to do what you do?
Probably not in a direct or overt manner, but I would say just from a place where my soul is centered, I would say yes, because obviously paddling and getting into the wilderness is such an important aspect of that side of me. But not always directly or overtly, but certainly sometimes you'll find environmental messages sprinkled all throughout my work, and things like that. So I'm not going out and painting landscapes per se, but certainly you will. And I'm not inspired necessarily by the trips or while I'm on the trips, but you will definitely find references all throughout my work. Yeah.
And we won't talk about the male and female anatomy paintings that I've seen as well.
Oh, why not?
Well, because I just didn't want to bring up that story, because we'd be here all night talking about that. It's just, yeah.
I wasn't sure if you weren't clear on which was which or how things worked. Or
no, I just was surprised what sold more. I thought it would. I really thought it would be the women's private part that would sell, but you still have it hanging in your house because nobody would buy it.
Oh boy, I thought we were going here.
Sorry, I told myself not to ask that question. All right, so here's the biggie. Are you ready? Is canoeing an art form?
Whoa.
For me, I think, yeah, it is an art form because it's a connection to deep in my soul. So maybe that it is an art form for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea of that is like, is Canadian canoeing, are we true Canadians because we paddle? Is that true around the world? Because you guys have traveled a lot. You've gone to Italy, Spain, whatever, UK to do your tours and show people how to paddle. And do they kind of look at us and you guys as the typical Canadians because we canoe?
After 25 years of teaching canoeing, Becky Mason knows all the tricks. In her casual but concise way, she takes you through each stroke, breaking down the mechanics of it and giving you the core elements that will make each maneuver successful and fun.
They may have a stereotypical thought about that, about Canadians being canoeists. There may be a stereotype abroad, but for better or for worse, I suppose. But in terms of us thinking as a Canadian, someone who paddles, I think we're at the point now in the history of this country that we see it more as an Indigenous craft, invented by and used by Indigenous peoples originally, and that is certainly a global thing. The canoe as an Indigenous craft is not centered in this country we now call Canada. It's obviously a global thing. And we kind of try to spread that message when we're off on our trips, internationally. We try to reinforce that whole idea because, in a way, recreational canoeing really has become a white person thing in a way, and we just like to expand that more and also give credit where it's due. What do you think?
I agree with that. And canoeing is it's a way to connect to the water.
I love canoeing. I like how it lets me travel on the land and the water. It's a different type of scene. When I step in a canoe, I'm not in a rush to go anywhere.
A canoe you can travel everywhere in a canoe. In Canada, you portage it, you paddle it, and just follow those blue ribbons along and see a lot of country and see history from way back, and then you can see what's happening to the land now, and that's important to me too.
Yeah. It's so. I'm actually kind of funny because I've never seen Reid so serious in my life. Sorry.
That's probably more your fault than mine.
Oh well, I think it's really kind of cool because we spend a lot of time at shows together, and right now this is what we would be doing. We'd be at all these shows. And I'm hyper, you're hyper, whatever, and then we meet all these people, and now we're just sort of like, ooh, and I don't think you guys are used to me asking serious questions. Oh man, I think the one question I really wanted to ask you guys, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately, was we've been in the canoe world for a long time. Like, not the world, but we've been around for a long time.
We're old.
For a long time.
You're really old, Kevin.
Yeah.
Well, we're not that old, really.
No, we're very ancient.
Oh, man. But the thing is, we've seen changes. So we've seen changes with gear, with skill set, with motivation, with patience, with even the canoe community itself, like canoe clubs, things like that. So what have you really seen? And I don't mean this as a negative thing or a positive thing. I'm just saying, what have you seen that have changed for all the time that when you started paddling?
What do you think?
I haven't noticed that much change. Maybe the fixation about light gear is a huge change. People just want lighter and lighter canoes, paddles. I'm a traditionalist, so I rather like the wood. I like the wood, and you can have very light wood too. Light canoes, and the wood canvas canoe has come back. The traditional way of it always has been here. Well, not always, but it's really coming back, those skills, and they're passing them along. They were dying out about 20 years ago. Less and less people are doing it. Now some younger people are starting to make canoes.
Oh, good. Really? Really?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a resurgence in the whole traditional skills, bushcraft, as you know, things like that, especially in the UK and Europe, but more so now here. I just heard on CBC the other day an Indigenous dude that had started his own bushcraft business and was doing videos online and stuff, and which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
But unlike Becky, I'd say there have been some significant changes. We're both Paddle Canada instructors, and have been. We both started guiding in the 80s as professional guides, and over those, whatever it is, at least 30 years, I think the teaching and the safety and the knowledge has really improved, both in terms of the dissemination and professionals learning, and also sharing that knowledge and just the skills we've all learned, or at least, yeah, we've all learned over the years. It's really been a pretty fast arcing curve. If you think of 1985 or so, when I would have started, maybe a little later, till now. And I think I see that as a real positive.
That's fantastic. Well, so Becky, why don't I share both of you? But I know Becky does instruction, right? So, Reid, do you do that as well?
Yeah, we both do it.
Okay.
We travel. When we travel, Reid is my co-instructor. Actually, we work as a team. We're quite different instructors, and it's cool because I'm good cop. No, am I bad cop?
You're the bad cop.
I'm
dude.
the bad cop.
Oh,
You
yeah.
are. I took your
He
course.
comes along and says, "Oh, don't be upset that she just told you such and such.
Stop crying.
Stop crying.
Yeah.
Here,
It's
we brought
terrible. In all honesty, you guys are amazing instructors, but I also remember we're at the main symposium, and my one talk was canceled, so then I joined your course, and I taught myself how to paddle, right? So, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm getting instructions, and you would not, Becky, you would not let me leave the water until I had my stroke perfected, because you called me Bubbles. But I don't know, do you remember that? Bubbles. And you said your whole stroke is so ineffective, you're wasting energy, you're not leaving until, and I think we're there for 2 months.
Wow.
That's a long class.
That was a long class.
We'll invoice you for that.
Yeah. But do you find that the people that are taking your courses, do you find that their patience and motivation, wanting to learn, good, bad, or ugly, or is it changing or not?
It is changing. Yeah, it is. Over the years, and I really noticed it last year. People would call me up and book. Actually, it's even 2 years in a row. They would book me up for a week of lessons. And I'm going, you really want a week of lessons? Yeah, I want to come for a week.
Wow.
And we negotiate, okay, 2 lessons a day. And they, yeah.
The sculling draw is an advanced variation of the draw that moves the canoe sideways to your paddling side. What's nice about it, it has constant pressure on the blade throughout the stroke. And now to break it down. Reach both hands out with the shaft perpendicular to the water. Set the power face of the blade open at about 20 degrees to the bow.
So people, I had like really nice people just fly in for a week from all over the world, and they rent a little Airbnb or something, or a camp up where close to us, and they take 2 lessons a day.
And pull it parallel to the canoe, following the curve of the gunnel towards the bow, and stop. Reset the open power face of the blade at about 20 degrees to the stern, and then pull it parallel, following the gunnel towards the stern.
And it was great. It forced me to change my lesson style. I used to just do 2-hour sessions, but now I've learned a lot from that if you teach somebody over a week, it's really interesting. You really slow down.
There are 4 things to remember. Set the power face of the blade open towards the bow. Follow the gunnel towards the bow, and then stop. Keep using the power face and set the blade open towards the stern, and follow the gunnel towards the stern, and then stop.
They get a lot more out of it, and I get a lot out of it. I get to learn why they're canoeing.
I like to use the sculling draw because you can easily adjust the position of the canoe. While moving sideways, you can pivot by opening the blade more towards the bow, or open it more towards the stern, depending which way you'd like to adjust your course. Because there's pressure on the power face throughout the stroke.
But because of that flexibility you've built into those courses, I think you're also finding people who will just take one course kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And go away. So there's sort of some people really like the long drawn out courses, and others just want the quick one night.
I call it a sting.
2-hour thing.
They just come in and they say, I just want to learn. And I give it to them for 2 hours, and they're happy, and they go away. And they usually return. So they go away for a year, maybe 2. I've had people return 5 years later and say, okay, I want some more.
Yeah. And we kind of have to do that when we travel too. You sort of have to have, either condense it to 2 or 3 classes in a day. I mean, we're usually there for a 2-day stint sometimes where we stop. And so, Becky's really modified courses she can pretty much teach anybody any way they wish.
And the interesting thing is, I used to just teach solo, and now I've always taught tandem, but I actually designed a tandem course. So it's not so much the technique of tandeming, it's actually communication. I have a communication course, which is quite amusing for partners, because they go, wow, this is cool. We can talk to each other without.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Why haven't you given me that course?
Well, yeah. And then the other one, the second lesson is maneuvers. I teach them how to maneuver the canoe. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's interesting because it's like basically you're getting all different people wanting different things, but that's not really hasn't changed. I mean, here I'm trying to think of a way to get you to say that life has changed, but it really hasn't. I mean, it really, the canoe community is still pretty solid, and people want to learn, and they want to learn skills. And well, so here's a more difficult question. What is your favorite canoe?
Oh, I gotta leave.
Oh, mine's quick. Red.
The red canoe,
Red.
No matter what it is. All right.
No matter what it is.
Yeah, just red.
Just be red. Okay. Well, that's true, because the red canoe has symbolized Canadian wilderness tripping for many, many years for a bunch of us.
Kevin.
What?
Look behind you.
Look over your left shoulder, right shoulder.
Right shoulder.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
It's red.
Oh,
That
wait a minute. I got to show you another one.
was
Wait. Oh, okay. Keep talking.
That canoe that you can, that painting you can see in the back.
Isn't that cool? Look at that.
Red. Oh yeah, the original by my dad.
Nice.
Andy.
What's that?
I think it is original, is it?
Yeah, it is an original.
Andy got that me for one of my birthdays. Yeah, it was so cool.
And the one behind you is a print of Pakasa National Park, one of my dad's favorite campsites.
That's the thing too, is like, you know, for my era, we actually live and dream that whole thing of actually going on the same routes that your dad did, and rewatching films now because we're all sort of going, woo! And actually, even if the virus wasn't going on, we'd still be watching those films, right? So, but at the same time, I just want to make sure that we all know about your dad. So I want to emphasize what you guys are doing. Because to me...
Oh, we're camping right now. Don't you see our...
No.
Our fire?
It's a facade. You're fakers.
No.
I don't even think you guys go canoeing.
We lived in a beautiful area. We just walk 2 feet away. We get to a campsite. 2 feet the other way, we get, like, you know. Yeah.
You're full of it, both of you. When you filmed that your series of how-to films on your own, that was done at Meech Lake, which is actually pretty close to where you live, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, we did two. Reid and I did 2 of them. One was at Meech Lake area, and then the other one was north of us at Lac Vert.
Oh, really? I didn't know that part. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the second movie.
When the fish were getting involved, where was that?
Yep. That was at Lac Vert up in, just north of here.
Oh.
Beautiful crystal clear water. We got that amazing underwater footage. We had the camera probably 10 or 12 feet underwater, and it was just crystal clear looking up. And it's green. It's just a beautiful lake. It's pretty spectacular. So.
Reid, my husband, my partner, my best friend, and creative soul extraordinaire, made this project fly.
However, I did watch a clip the other night saying that you were upset with the fish getting involved in your film.
The fish may have been the stars of the movie, but they were a bit of a pain. They followed my canoe around, and they got in the way of the shots. We lost a lot of shots because their little eyeballs were looking into the camera lens. It was kind of cool, but and I couldn't judge the depth.
Oh.
Really, I don't hate fish.
What were you thinking? You're so mean.
I am not.
Freddie the fish, we called him. He was a troublemaker.
He was. He got in the way. And when I was filming, I was paddling, and it's so clear that you can't tell the depth. It's crystal clear. It's 90 foot visibility. So Reid was up to his neck in water, had the camera on a long pole, about a 20-foot pole, down below, and he was shooting up. And there was a fish. Fish always swim underneath dark things like your canoe or your dock or whatever. They like the shade when it's really sunny out. So I had quite a collection of fish underneath me. So I was doing my little stroke, and I swatted one. Just, I wasn't going to hit it, but I did. I couldn't believe it. With my paddle.
So let me get this straight. So we've got it now. So Becky was filming, and the fish were getting in the way, so she swatted to try to kill them, to get them out of the scene. We've heard
She
it
basically
now.
steered it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my Lord, you guys are out of control. All right, your most memorable wildlife sightings on your elaborate trips you've been on.
Oh boy.
Well,
There are lots.
there are so many, but one was 2 caribou were swimming behind my canoe, Reid and my canoe, and we were with a group of people, and I looked behind me, and I saw, it was in Woodland Caribou Provincial Park, and I looked behind me and saw the 2 caribou. They were quite close too. It was amazing, and I loved it. And we were training people to see by themselves, so I was told not to point everything out, and I was like just about having a hairy conniption because I saw these 2 caribou. There's only 300 caribou in the whole park, and I saw 2 behind me swimming, and Reid's going, no, Becky, you're not supposed to do this tourist stuff. You just be in the moment, and if they notice, then you can talk about it. Anyways, it was just the most magnificent thing, being chased by 2 caribou, and no one else noticed really.
That's wild. That was when you were with Ray Mears, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, that trip, I think we were,
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people noticed, but many people didn't.
Well, he was doing a bushcraft thing, so it was an educational trip, so therefore you weren't supposed to. But come on, if a woolly caribou was behind me in the canoe, I'd be like, look!
No, but it was fantastic. So I didn't point them out. But we saw them again and again, and everybody noticed every bit about because they heard that they missed the 2 caribou swimming behind them.
Oh wow!
They paid attention big time.
Yeah.
Like Ray noticed the 2 caribou, of course, but everybody else that didn't, they were really attentive. And I learned something because they were super attentive. They didn't want to miss a thing after that.
That's really cool. That's a great story. I actually personally hate this story, but I know people are going to want me to ask you what has been your favorite trip in the past? Because that's hard to answer, right?
That's really hard to answer.
Okay, do it in 8 seconds. 1, 2.
No, it's
3,
more.
4.
It's more when you get asked a
6,
question.
7, 8. Go.
It's more a question almost of categories, like what was your best trip with friends, or what was your best trip that was really peaceful and quiet, or what was your best trip for scenery? And it's really hard to narrow down a best trip. It really is. I mean, I don't know what I'd say. We've had a few. I think my favorite trips are probably just when we're paddling alone. Since you just mentioned it, that trip after we were with Ray Mears for 2 weeks in Woodland Caribou. And after that, we went down, we continued on, just the 2 of us, down the Bloodvein River. And
great.
Yeah, which was, of course, you know it well. And it's just a lovely trip. But just after, we spent 2 weeks with these wonderful people in the wilderness, and we didn't see anybody else. 2 weeks in Woodland Caribou, and we saw one other canoe the whole time. Turns out those people knew us, which was hilarious in itself. But just 2 weeks after working with all those people, it was just so nice to have solitude and to travel at our own pace and just to be alone. And you know how after a trip, you kind of like to unwind after a trip with people and just discuss everything. So we just did that. And at the same time, on a guided trip, we weren't moving as fast as you might normally. So we just, we just wanted to paddle. So we just paddled and talked and ran all the rapids and just it was a really nice memory doing that. For me, that's one that comes to mind just for satisfying on all levels, I guess.
We enjoyed that, and it's really special. We don't guide very much, actually, and so with these Ray Mears trips, it seems to just fit us to a T, and he's invited us again, and he's just doing another trip next year.
2021 in Temagami.
Yeah, so that's going to be good.
Be awesome. Yeah, I get that too, because
me.
What about you?
My favorite trip.
Oh, go.
Nahanni National Park.
Really? Wow. Mm-hmm. Why so?
The Nahanni River. Well, I went down the Nahanni River. First trip, many times with my dad and friends, and then I guided down it too. And then the last trip, my dad chose to go down the river. He invited friends and family for our last trip, and I just remember it. It was spectacular. Just the vistas were just like this, and there's nothing like it.
That's really touching because, I mean, we all have fathers, right? So the idea of actually your father passing, and then we had terminal cancer, right? And basically he made the choice, instead of going through all the therapy, is basically to just go on a canoe trip before he passed. And then it was in Nahanni. And I really don't, I've never really asked you those questions, to be quite honest, but that would have been tough or not, or was it spiritual, or was it sort of uplifting? Was it sort of a way to let go? And was that also the trip where he lost his hat?
was it tough?
But it was tough. It was very tough, but it was really good. People ask me, well, how do you handle that? How do you handle all those memories and everything? Well, when my dad died, it was a pivotal time. I was just nearing 24, and I was just like a little sponge. We both knew that he was going to die, and he was sharing a lot of stuff. So he was very good at sharing. So he shared a lot of things with me whenever I asked. So I asked him about stuff. How do you do this? Because when you're younger, you do absorb it, but sometimes you don't quite. You need a little bit of reinforcement with verbal knowledge, or you just need them to do it again. So I knew he was passing. So it was actually a really amazing gift, that trip, and up to the time of his death, is I was asking him. You know, I knew that was it. So it was time to ask.
It was hard. I mean, for me, I was on that trip as well, and it was my first time down the river, so I found a real, I think because Becky had been down it before, she was familiar with the scenery and just the incredible and intense, it's an intense experience with just the magnificence of that area. And I found that to be a real dichotomy between knowing that and watching that and experiencing that for the first hand, while at the same time knowing that this great man, I'd only known for 5 years, but still felt very, I don't know, just felt very, just felt strongly about, just knowing and watching, you could see the deterioration and as a 25, 24-year-old, you know, at that time of your life, you tend to be pretty self-absorbed at sometimes and not always being able to have the life experience to sort of balance and appreciate those really dramatic contrasts. So for me, it was a very memorable trip. But I think because of all that emotion going through me, it was, I wouldn't call it one of my best in that way, in a good way, but it was an important, bittersweet, I guess would be the best word.
It was a good closure, right? Of all things, if all closures could happen, that would be the best, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a closure nobody wanted, so.
No. Yeah. All right, to spice it up a bit, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask Reid this question. Who is the better paddler, Becky or her brother Paul?
Oh, between them, like, I think I'm better than both of them. I think we know that.
Yeah. Buddy old pal.
But it's interesting. Yeah, I think they both have their niches, right? I mean, I've been taught by both of them, and I've taught with both of them. And Paul obviously focuses almost exclusively on moving water, whereas Becky is flat water.
Paul Mason, Mark Scriver, and Andrew Westwood are pioneers of whitewater canoeing. They all started out by canoe tripping with their families, but they've taken canoeing to a different level and have pushed forward the limits of what can be done in an open boat. They've written books, made DVDs, taught classes, and designed smaller and more robust canoes. And most of all, they've been out there doing it for years, trying new moves, nailing new lines, and in Mark's case, becoming world freestyle champion.
I'm Paul Mason. I've been canoeing since I was 1 day old. I don't think I was a really strong paddler at one, but when my dad did the series of Path of the Paddle canoe films, I developed skills. Creaking lines where you have big drop and substantial carnage if you screw it up definitely give me butterflies. My main coping strategy is eat a lot, because I find there's less room in my stomach for the butterflies. I kid you not. I'm a cartoonist. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, well, today. But I'm out here getting new material. I find a lot of my paddling buddies very inspirational.
Whenever we teach, we always stress that canoeing, there's no right way and wrong way to do it, and two, it's really very basic things you're doing with the paddle to make your boat go somewhere. So it's not rocket science. But at the same time, they are two different disciplines. And I think through practice and experience and learning, they've really both become at the top of their game doing each. So I would say Paul would be the better whitewater instructor and Becky would be the better flatwater instructor. And really, I'm better than both of them in everything I do.
Oh, Lord. Becky, I remember a moment where I was with your brother years ago. He had that the new book out. Oh gosh, remind me who he was.
Fill of the Paddle.
Yeah. And so he was on tour, I was on tour, and we were doing the tour together. And we got stuck in this mall doing a book signing. And no, there was nobody. Like, nobody even knew. I had a clue, right? And there was a water fountain. And he's like, I could buff that. And I thought he was joking. That man was not joking. Like, he was so bored out of his skull. He was going to buff his banana boat over that. Oh, my Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Really good times. Oh,
That's great.
I always get nervous when I hear the tap in my bathroom running and he's in there because I think he might be getting his boat out.
Oh.
Go paddling in the tub or something.
Yes. So here's a good question, too. And I know your answer, but I think people should hear it. Is wilderness canoe tripping dangerous?
Is it dangerous?
Yeah. Because that's one of my number one, sorry, I'm going to have to whiskey for this one. This is very serious. No, people don't want to go out there because they think it's dangerous. But you guys go out and you don't do oh, we're all going to die. You have fun and enjoy your time out there. It's rejoiceful, right? So is it dangerous? Should people be concerned about going out there?
So it's not dangerous if you have education. If you educate yourself to lessen the potential of accidents or problems, it's all anticipation. And the only way you can anticipate it is educating yourself. There's super educational tools. You can take courses, you can look at videos, you can
join a club.
Join a club, they're fantastic. Go and start small. Most people back in the day tended to think of going on these massive trips, and yeah, they'd run into a lot of problems. But I think some of them see the point of starting small, and then you can start to educate yourself and become familiar with your surroundings. So as an example, if you're a city person and you're really comfortable and there's not going to be too many accidents, but if you're straight off from a river and you haven't been in a city much and you go, and yeah, it's really dangerous because you're going to get hit by a car if you go the wrong way.
Yeah, I think there's inherent risk in everything you do, and much like you wouldn't drive down the 401 without a driver's license or never having driven before, the same as you shouldn't go out in a canoe on a long trip without first having learned how, so just risk assessment is really important, and just knowing your abilities, and also constantly learning both from others and from books and other resources, and also experiential learning is key too. Once you get a few skills, you go out and you learn more, but you just have to be able to assess risk and act accordingly, for sure. But
Becky would find this funny. I remember growing up, I basically would read your dad's books and watch his videos over and over and over and over again, and then go out paddling and then go back and watch them again. And everybody goes, how'd you learn how to paddle? I just watched videos.
Yeah, it's great. I learned how to telemark ski that way. I got a book out of the library, and one day my dad had brought home telemark skis from Salt Lake City, and nobody had them around here. So he said, let's go out, and I crashed and burned for the day, so I thought I better figure this out. So I went and got a book and read it all, cover to cover, and I brought it up on the chairlift, reading a few pages as I went, and I actually got quite proficient in not wrapping myself around trees or anything. So, and then I became quite skilled, and it was more enjoyable. It was great.
Yeah.
So when you educate yourself, it's not a downer. You actually get more out of it, and you have more enjoyment. So what's up with that? to avoid it.
Yeah, learning is great. Practical experience, just more bush time. Basically, a lot of people ask me that. It's just more bush time. Get out in the bush. I can't teach you all this stuff. You just need to go out and do it. So,
Yeah.
All right. So we'll wrap it up with 2 very serious questions.
Do you have a script? Are you reading off
you know
a
what?
script?
I did, and I haven't looked at it. I've looked at it twice.
You
So
didn't get a script.
you do know me, right? Do I actually present with a script? Like, I do. I do not. But I do want to ask you that. Okay, so where, if anybody wanted to know where to get your artwork, Reid's and Becky's, where would they go to get that? And also the films that you've created, Becky, where would they get that? And where can we actually send notes to Paul and harass him?
Well, it's redcanoes.ca. We have a website, and if you click on contact us, you can contact me, Reid, and my brother.
But we've got all our artwork up there, all of Bill Mason's artwork.
In the gift store.
Also movies, Becky's movies, Bill's movies.
For download or DVD.
Everything you might need is at our website, I would say.
And your artwork too, Reid, is on the same site? Okay.
There is. Yep.
Yeah. Seriously, you guys, not because we're in a, oh my Lord, there's a storm coming across the lake.
Oh.
Good thing I'm not canoeing. Not because we're in a pandemic, whatever, and we have nothing else to do. But really, if you had lots of things to do, you really should check out their work. It's amazing. And
there's no storm.
There's no storm.
I got nothing here. Oh my Lord. All right, the ultimate question, because I'm just doing this to upset a whole bunch of paddlers that I know. I'm going to ask the 2 iconic canoe couple, like basically the 2 Canadian people, the ultimate question. Should you single blade or double blade a canoe?
Oh, whatever works. Both. Why not?
Pole.
Don't forget to
Sail.
pole your canoe.
Sail. Flutterboard.
Yep. And don't forget to learn your HTML too.
Totally.
HTML in a canoe.
Don't you know what that is, Kevin?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Do you not have your Canadian citizenship?
Yeah?
You know Pierre Burton and Canadian citizenship?
Oh!
HTML in a canoe.
Cut!
Oh boy.
Cut! Oh my Lord, Reid, you're out of control.
Trying to be serious.
Okay. So yes, so basically you pole, you double blade, you single blade, whatever gets you out there and playing boats and go in the wilderness, and you have sex in the canoe is what you're basically saying. And that's why kayakers aren't really up to snuff, because that's probably well, it's not impossible, but it's cheers.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
What, is that it?
That's it. No, we only got 40 minutes and we're cut.
Okay.
Yes. Wow, that hurt. This morning I woke up, I heard an osprey, which is a big deal, and I got so excited I went like this, and I stabbed myself in the forehead, like you can see right here. Ow, that hurt. All right. Thanks a lot, and I hope everything gets solved so you can go out and start teaching people to paddle. Really, take the courses. It's phenomenal. Like, they're really good instructors. And check out the films and check out the artwork, and I love your artwork.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. And good luck with your new studio. It's good time to start building that, man.
Yeah. Well, what else are you going to do? It's all good.
Yeah. All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, buddy. Stay safe. Stay at home. We'll be paddling soon.
We will.
All right, here comes the shakeout. Poor Becky. I know it was a hot day and it probably felt really good for you to get wet, but man, she did this shakeout about 10 times this day. Oh, she was so tired, eh?
It was crazy. Oh, I was just exhausted. That's a really heavy canoe.
I'm rolling, so.
Camera, action!
I just need a rest.
Okay, cut.